Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update from our channel.
Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile are about to uncover a mystery in the animal kingdom. But there's one big question. Why do animals sometimes look so different from the ones we know? In a magical forest full of amazing animals, Ziggy the playful puppy and Carl the big, silly crocodile embark on an adventure. They notice that some animals in their world are very different from the ones they've seen before. Some have strange colors, others have odd shapes, and some even speak. Ziggy wonders, what makes these animals so special? Are they friendly, or do they have a hidden secret? The pair travel deeper into the forest, meeting various unusual animals along the way. There's Fuzz, the bright purple squirrel who can teleport, and Gertie, a zebra with wings that flaps like a bird. But the further they go, the more they realize something's not right. Some animals are grumpy, others act strangely, and Ziggy starts to feel a little uneasy. Why does the forest seem so mysterious? Finally, Ziggy and Carl discover a magical stone hidden beneath a large tree, glowing in a soft, eerie light. When they touch the stone, they see all the animals in the forest flash in bright colors, and they realize that the forest is a place where animals can change and transform. Some animals are not what they seem. There are secret creatures with powers beyond their wildest imaginations. The question is, will they use their powers for good, or will they cause trouble for everyone? As the pair get closer to solving the mystery, they meet a wise owl named Ollie, who explains that the forest is enchanted and that it holds magical secrets about every creature. Some of these animals act strangely because they're trying to figure out how to control their powers. The animals are not scary, they're just different, and sometimes they need friends like Ziggy and Carl to understand them. Ziggy and Carl decide to help the animals learn to control their powers and live peacefully together. They teach the animals about teamwork and kindness, and soon the forest becomes a happy place again, with everyone, no matter how different, working together. Do you think you could be friends with a magical animal? What kind of animal would you want to meet? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to share this adventure with your friends. Keep watching for more fun stories with Ziggy and Carl. Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile are about to discover something big. But here's the question. Why do some animals seem so different from the rest? Could the forest be hiding a secret that only they can uncover? In the heart of the enchanted forest, Ziggy the playful golden retriever and Carl the mischievous crocodile are best friends. One morning, as they wander through the forest, they realize something strange. The animals they know, bunnies, squirrels, and birds, are nowhere to be found. Instead, they encounter creatures with unusual powers and odd appearances. There's a glowing blue rabbit with wings, and a lion with a mane made of sparkles. What's going on here? Asks Ziggy. Carl, ever curious, says, let's explore. We're bound to find out. As they journey deeper into the forest, they meet more mysterious animals. There's Miko, the fox who can turn invisible, and a chubby hippo who can roll like a bouncy ball. But things start to get a little eerie. The animals they meet are friendly, but some have strange behaviors. A wise old turtle warns them, beware the magic of this forest. Not all creatures can control their powers. Ziggy is beginning to feel a little nervous. Carl, on the other hand, is excited and determined to find out what's causing all the weirdness. Their search leads them to a hidden grove where an ancient, glowing stone lies at the center. As Ziggy and Carl touch the stone, the forest around them begins to glow. Suddenly, they witness the magical transformations of the animals. Some change colors, others grow wings, and a few even start floating. Ziggy and Carl realize that every creature in the forest has a hidden magical power, but not all of them know how to control it. A strange shadowy figure watches them from afar, and Carl feels a chill run down his spine. At the edge of the grove, they meet Ollie, a mystical owl who explains that the animals in the forest are connected to the magic of the enchanted stone. When the stone is touched by pure-hearted creatures, it awakens the powers within them, Ollie explains. But sometimes, the magic can cause chaos if not controlled properly. Ziggy and Carl realize that the key to solving the mystery is to help the animals learn how to use their powers for good. But they still don't know who, or what, the shadowy figure is. After some thinking, Carl gets an idea. They could organize a magical talent show where all the animals can showcase their powers and practice controlling them. Ziggy and Carl help each animal, from the invisible fox to the floating bear, practice their powers in fun and creative ways. The forest becomes a place of laughter and joy once again, with everyone working together to solve the mystery of their powers. But just as the forest settles into harmony, the shadowy figure reveals itself. It's a mischievous spirit who had been causing the confusion all along, trying to take the magic for itself. With teamwork and friendship, Ziggy and Carl stop the spirit and restore balance to the forest. Have you ever seen an animal do something magical? What powers do you think Ziggy and Carl should discover next? Let us know your ideas in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe for more wild adventures with Ziggy and Carl. Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile had always loved exploring the enchanted forest, but today felt different. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting a soft glow over the mossy ground. As they wandered deeper into the forest, Ziggy began to notice that the usual animals weren't around. There were no chirping birds or scampering squirrels. Instead, the trees were filled with creatures that looked like nothing they'd seen before. "Do you see that, Carl?" Ziggy asked, his tail wagging with curiosity. A rabbit with glowing blue fur zipped past them, its wings fluttering like a butterfly. "That's definitely new," Carl chuckled, his big, toothy grin showing. "Let's go find out what's going on." As they continued their journey, they met even more strange animals. A fox with shimmering, transparent fur appeared out of nowhere, only to vanish in the blink of an eye. "That fox just disappeared," Ziggy exclaimed, feeling a little shiver run down his spine. Carl, on the other hand, laughed. "That's awesome. I want to meet more of them." But the further they traveled, the more unsettling the forest seemed. They came across a zebra with wings fluttering like a bird, and a lion whose mane sparkled with every step. Some animals seemed happy, but others were acting strangely, grumpy or restless. It was as if something was off about this place. Then, in a quiet clearing, they stumbled upon an ancient, glowing stone resting at the base of a giant tree. The air around it felt charged with magic. Ziggy's ears perked up. "Do you think it's the source of all this?" he wondered aloud. Without warning, Carl, full of his usual curiosity, stepped forward and touched the stone. In an instant, the ground around them began to glow, and the animals of the forest started changing. A tiny squirrel turned into a giant, fluffy version of itself, and a bear started floating in the air, its feet barely touching the ground. It was as if the magic had awakened in everyone. Just then, a deep voice echoed through the trees. "Not all creatures can control the magic that resides within them," said Ollie, an ancient owl perched high on a branch. "The forest has been waiting for creatures like you to help." Ziggy and Carl exchanged a glance. They had always been the brave, adventurous pair, but this was bigger than any of their past adventures. "How can we help?" Ziggy asked, his eyes wide with wonder. Ollie explained that the magic of the stone had given the animals powerful abilities, but some of them had no idea how to control their newfound powers. It was up to Ziggy and Carl to teach the animals how to use their magic wisely. Determined, Carl suggested they hold a magical talent show to help everyone practice their powers. Ziggy loved the idea and started brainstorming how they could organize the event. Soon, the forest was alive with excitement as each animal worked to perfect their special ability. The magical talent show was a success. The animals laughed and cheered as they showed off their powers. The fox who could turn invisible became the best hide-and-seek player, and the floating bear learned to fly in graceful circles. But just as the event was winding down, a dark shadow appeared in the distance. It was the mischievous spirit that had been causing trouble, trying to steal the magic for itself. With the help of their new friends, Ziggy and Carl confronted the spirit. They used their teamwork and newfound magic to trap it in a glowing bubble, restoring peace to the forest. Everyone celebrated, and the magical animals now had control over their abilities, using them for good. Ziggy and Carl, exhausted but happy, returned to their favorite spot in the forest, where they could look up at the stars and know that their world had become a little bit brighter, thanks to their bravery and friendship. "What do you think we'll find tomorrow?" Ziggy asked with a yawn. Carl stretched out beside him. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he said with a smile. And so, their magical adventures continued, one story at a time. As the days passed, Ziggy and Carl became more and more curious about the magic that had transformed the enchanted forest. It wasn't just about the animals and their newfound powers anymore. It was about the mystery behind it all. The forest, once calm and peaceful, now had a sense of magic that felt like it was alive. One day, as they were playing near the glowing stone, Ziggy noticed something unusual. The stone wasn't glowing as brightly as it had before. "Do you think the magic is fading?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Carl, ever optimistic, shook his head. "I don't think so. It's probably just resting, waiting for something special to happen." They both agreed that they needed to find out more about the stone and why it had changed the forest in such strange ways. Ollie, the wise owl, had mentioned before that the stone was ancient, but he hadn't told them everything. It seemed like it was time for Ziggy and Carl to find the truth. Their journey took them deep into the heart of the forest, where the trees grew taller and the air felt thick with magic. As they walked, they came across an old, abandoned path that was covered in vines. The path seemed to lead toward something, a secret perhaps. Ziggy's tail wagged excitedly as he sniffed the air. "This feels like the right place," he exclaimed. They followed the path for what felt like hours until they reached a hidden grove. In the center of the grove stood a towering tree with silver leaves that shimmered in the dim light. At the base of the tree was another stone, even larger than the first. It pulsed with a soft, rhythmic glow, almost like a heartbeat. As they approached, a deep voice rumbled from within the tree. "Who dares to disturb the sacred heart of the forest?" The voice was powerful yet calm. Ziggy stepped forward, his heart racing. "It's us, Ziggy and Carl. We've come to understand the magic of this forest. We want to help." The tree seemed to consider this for a moment, then responded, "The heart of the forest is the source of all the magic here. It has been waiting for the right creatures to awaken it, but you must prove you are worthy of its secrets." Carl, not one to back down from a challenge, puffed out his chest. "We're ready. We've been learning from the animals, and we want to help make the forest better for everyone." The tree responded with a gentle laugh. "Very well then. You must face the trial of the elements. If you succeed, the magic will be yours to protect. But beware, the trial will test your hearts, your minds, and your courage." Without warning, the ground beneath them began to rumble. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and the air grew thick with energy. A whirlwind appeared, swirling around them. The tree's voice echoed once more. "First, you must face the element of wind." Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile braced themselves as the wind howled around them. The air was so strong, it felt as if it might carry them away. Ziggy barked, his tail wagging furiously. "I can't let the wind stop me. We've got to hold on, Carl." Carl grinned and dug his claws into the ground, steadying himself. "We're stronger together, Ziggy. Let's show this wind who's boss." With teamwork and determination, they stood their ground against the wind. Ziggy ran circles around Carl, using his speed to dodge the gusts while Carl kept his footing, protecting his friend from the strongest blasts. Together, they managed to pass the first test. The wind faded, and the sky cleared, revealing the next challenge. Now face the element of fire, the tree boomed. Suddenly, flames erupted around them, rising high into the sky. Ziggy's fur stood on end as he instinctively jumped back. It's hot. How are we going to get through this? He barked. Carl, however, remained calm. We've faced tough situations before. We just have to stay cool. With that, Carl used his powerful tail to knock over a nearby stone, creating a barrier between them and the flames. Ziggy squeezed through the gap and began to dig, creating a tunnel for them to crawl through. They worked together, and soon they emerged on the other side, their hearts racing but victorious. The trial wasn't over yet. Next, you must face the element of water, the tree intoned. Water began to pour from the sky, creating a heavy downpour that flooded the grove. Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile struggled to stay afloat, but Carl had an idea. We need to work together. Follow me, Ziggy. Carl used his powerful legs to paddle through the water, guiding Ziggy across the rushing stream that formed. Ziggy, with his natural agility, managed to leap from rock to rock, dodging the current as Carl helped him when needed. Their teamwork proved strong once more, and the floodwaters slowly began to subside. Finally, after the water vanished, the voice of the tree spoke again. Now you must face the most difficult challenge, the element of earth. It is not something you can fight with force. It must be faced with wisdom and kindness. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shift, forming huge stone walls that surrounded them. It felt like they were trapped in a maze. Ziggy barked in panic, but Carl nudged him gently. Remember, Ziggy, this is a test of our hearts. We need to stay calm and find our way out with kindness. Together, they approached the stone walls, each one representing a challenge that required careful thought. They spoke to the walls, asking for the way out, and in return, the stones shifted. They used their problem-solving skills and helped each other through the maze. At last, the walls opened up, and the glowing stone at the center of the grove pulsed brightly. The tree's voice boomed one final time. You have passed the trial of the elements. You have shown that you are worthy. The magic of the heart of the forest is now yours to protect. With that, the stone glowed brighter than ever before, and the forest came alive with energy. The animals, now empowered by the magic, danced and played together, knowing that their world was safe once more. Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile stood together, their hearts full of pride. We did it, Carl. Ziggy wagged his tail, and Carl smiled, his eyes gleaming with happiness. Together we can face anything, he said. And so, the adventures of Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile continued, filled with magic, friendship, and the knowledge that no challenge was too big when faced together. Ziggy the golden retriever and Carl the crocodile were now the protectors of the heart of the forest, but they knew that their journey had only just begun. Every day, new adventures seemed to unfold before them, each more magical and mysterious than the last. One bright afternoon, while they were resting under a large tree, a fluttering noise filled the air. Ziggy's ears perked up, and Carl squinted into the distance. From behind a cluster of glowing bushes, a small creature emerged. It was unlike any animal they had seen before. A bird with feathers that shimmered like gold and eyes that sparkled like stars. The bird landed gracefully before them, its wings rustling like a soft breeze. Greetings, protectors of the heart. It chirped in a voice as sweet as music. I am Astra, a guardian of the skies. There is something troubling in the winds, and I need your help. Ziggy's tail wagged eagerly. What's wrong, Astra? We're always ready to help. Astra looked around nervously, her golden feathers flickering in the sunlight. The wind has become restless. Strange gusts are blowing from the east, and they carry with them a shadow, a darkness that threatens to undo the balance of the forest. If it isn't stopped, the magic of the heart could fade. Carl's eyes widened with concern. That sounds serious. We can't let that happen. What can we do? Astra nodded. I believe the source of the disturbance lies at the peak of Mount Zephyros, the highest mountain in the forest. It is said to be the home of the wind spirit, a powerful being who controls the winds. But the path to the mountain is dangerous, and many have failed to reach it. Ziggy and Carl exchanged a determined glance. "Whimsical," Ziggy barked, his voice full of excitement. "There's no challenge too big for us." With Astra leading the way, the trio set off toward the distant mountain. As they traveled through the forest, they noticed that the usual calm breeze had turned into strong, unpredictable gusts. Trees swayed wildly, and the air felt charged with energy. The closer they got to Mount Zephyros, the more intense the winds became. The path to the mountain was steep and rocky. The wind howled, pushing against them, trying to knock them off their feet. Ziggy, with his quick reflexes, managed to dart ahead, his fur flying in the breeze. Carl, with his strength, used his tail to steady himself and clear the debris from their path. When they finally reached the base of Mount Zephyros, the wind was at its most ferocious. The mountain seemed to stretch into the sky, its peak lost in the clouds. Astra paused and looked up, worry crossing her face. The wind spirit resides at the summit, but there's a trial you must face to prove you're worthy of approaching it. A deep rumbling sound echoed from the mountain, and suddenly, a massive whirlpool of wind appeared before them, swirling in a dizzying spiral. "Only those with pure hearts and unyielding courage can pass through the wind," Astra warned. Carl looked at Ziggy, then at the swirling vortex. "Let's show the wind what we're made of." Together, they stood tall against the gusts, their bodies leaning into the storm. The wind was so strong it felt as if it could sweep them off their feet, but Ziggy and Carl didn't waver. Ziggy the golden retriever, Carl the crocodile, and Astra the bird returned to the forest. They traveled from animal to animal, reminding them of their inner strength and encouraging them to embrace their unique powers. One by one, the animals found peace within themselves, and as they did, the winds began to settle. As the last of the storm clouds cleared, the forest was calm again. The heart of the forest glowed brighter than ever before, and the magic flowed freely once more. Ziggy and Carl returned to their favorite spot under the tree, their hearts full of pride. "We did it, Carl!" Ziggy exclaimed. Carl stretched out, his tail swishing contentedly. "Together, there's nothing we can't do." And so, with each new challenge, Ziggy and Carl proved that their friendship was the greatest magic of all, ready to face whatever came next with courage, love, and a little bit of adventure. Ziggy and Carl's adventures seemed to never end, and that was just how they liked it. Every day, the forest revealed new wonders and challenges, and they were always eager to explore. One morning, as the sun rose, casting golden light over the treetops, Astra appeared again, her wings shimmering in the soft light. "There's something new in the forest," she said, looking worried. "Something ancient has awoken. The animals are becoming restless again." Ziggy's tail wagged with excitement. "What kind of ancient magic? Can we help?" Astra nodded gravely. "It's the Whispering Stone. Long ago, it was a source of great power, but it was hidden deep in the forest, sealed away. Now, it has been disturbed, and its magic is causing strange happenings. The creatures of the forest are becoming fearful and unpredictable." Carl scratched his head with his tail. "A stone causing all that? That doesn't sound good. Where do we start?" Astra pointed toward a dark, dense part of the forest that they had never ventured into before. "It's located beyond the misty grove, past the fog of secrets. Many have tried to reach it, but no one has returned. You must be careful, for the Whispering Stone's magic can cloud the mind and make even the bravest creature question what is real." Ziggy barked with determination. "We're not afraid. We'll get to the bottom of this, no matter what it takes." Carl nodded in agreement, his eyes sparkling with confidence. "Let's go, Ziggy. No mystery is too big for us." With Astra leading the way, they set off toward the misty grove. The journey was long, and the forest grew darker and denser the closer they got to their destination. Strange sounds echoed around them, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. the rustling of leaves that had no wind behind them. Ziggy's ears perked up, and he looked around nervously. "Do you hear that, Carl? It's like someone is talking to us." Carl stayed close, his eyes scanning the shadows. "Stay focused, Ziggy. It's the magic of the forest playing tricks on us. We can't let it distract us from our mission." When they reached the edge of the misty grove, a thick fog rolled in, making it hard to see even a few steps ahead. The air felt heavy, and the whispers grew louder. Ziggy's tail tucked nervously between his legs. "It's so spooky here. I can barely see anything." Carl, ever brave, took a deep breath. "We've faced worse together. Remember the trial of the elements? We can handle this." With Astra's guidance, they pushed through the mist, the fog swirling around them, as if trying to hold them back. Each step felt like they were walking through a dream, the world around them shifting and changing. Soon, they found themselves at the heart of the grove, where the whispering stone stood. It was massive, taller than any tree they had ever seen, with glowing cracks running down its surface. The whispers were louder now, echoing from within the stone itself. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" A voice boomed from the stone. It was deep and ancient, vibrating through the ground beneath their paws. Ziggy stepped forward, his voice steady despite the fear he felt. "We're here to stop the magic from causing harm. We want to help the forest and its creatures." The stone rumbled and its cracks widened. "You cannot stop me. The forest is mine, and I will whisper the fears of all who come near. Only those who face their deepest fears can silence me." Carl gritted his teeth, his tail flicking nervously. "We've faced challenges before, but this one feels different." Astra flew higher, her wings glowing with golden light. "Ziggy, Carl, the whispering stone feeds on fear. You must confront what scares you most, or the forest will remain in darkness forever." Ziggy and Carl exchanged a look, both knowing what this meant. They had to face their fears, not just for themselves, but for the entire forest. Ziggy took a deep breath and stepped closer to the stone. Suddenly, images began to swirl around him. He saw himself lost and alone in the forest, unable to find his way home. He saw Carl in danger, trapped by thorns, and Ziggy was powerless to help him. His heart raced, and his legs trembled as the fear threatened to overwhelm him. But then, he remembered all the times Carl had been there for him. He remembered how they had faced every challenge together. "I'm not alone," Ziggy whispered to himself, his tail wagging. "Carl's always with me. We face our fears together." With that thought, the images faded, and the whispers grew softer. Carl stepped forward, and the stone's voice turned to him. He saw flashes of his past, the times when he doubted his strength and questioned whether he was worthy of being a protector of the forest. He saw himself failing, unable to help Ziggy or the animals they cared about. But Carl stood tall. He thought of all the creatures they had helped, of how far they had come together. "I'm not afraid," Carl said firmly. "I trust in myself. I trust in Ziggy. Together, we can overcome anything." As Carl spoke, the stone trembled, and the whispers grew quiet. The glowing cracks began to seal themselves, and the once ominous aura surrounding the stone softened. With one final deafening rumble, the stone fell silent. The fog lifted, and the forest breathed a sigh of relief. The whispering stone, now at peace, pulsed with a gentle light. The air felt lighter, and the creatures of the forest, who had been paralyzed by fear, now emerged from their hiding places, their spirits lifted. Astra flew down to join them, her wings shimmering in the sun. "Juve donate." The whispering stone is silenced, and the balance of the forest is restored. The magic of the heart is safe once again, thanks to you both. Ziggy and Carl smiled, their hearts full of pride. "We couldn't have done it without each other," Ziggy said, nuzzling Carl. Carl grinned. "That's right. Together, we're unstoppable." As they walked back to the heart of the forest, the trees swayed gently in the breeze, the birds sang in harmony, and the magic of the forest flourished once more. They knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their friendship and courage stronger than ever. And so, Ziggy and Carl's adventures continued, filled with magic, bravery, and the unbreakable bond that made them true protectors of the forest. Ziggy the golden retriever puppy and Carl the crocodile sat by the edge of a sparkling stream, enjoying the peaceful sounds of nature. But today, the air felt different, electric, as though something exciting was about to happen. Ziggy tilted his head and sniffed the air. "Do you feel that, Carl? It's like something's calling us." Carl, who had been lounging lazily on the soft grass, stretched and looked around. "I don't know, Ziggy. It's just a quiet day. But if you feel it, maybe we should check it out." The two friends stood up and followed the stream as it wound through the forest, the sun dappling through the trees. After a while, they came to a clearing where the ground was covered in soft moss, and a large old tree stood at the center. But something strange was happening. The tree's roots were glowing faintly. Ziggy barked with excitement. "Wow, this tree is glowing. I've never seen anything like it." Carl stepped forward cautiously, eyeing the glowing roots. "That's unusual. Trees don't glow. Maybe we should be careful, Ziggy." Just as Carl finished speaking, the ground rumbled, and the tree's roots began to shift. A voice, deep and soothing, echoed from the trunk of the tree. "Who dares to approach the ancient tree of wisdom?" Ziggy's eyes widened. "The tree can talk?" Carl's voice was steady. "We're here to help. We didn't mean to disturb you. We were just curious." The tree's voice grew warmer. "Curiosity is a powerful thing, but you must prove your worth. To unlock the wisdom within, you must solve a riddle." Ziggy's tail wagged. "A riddle? I love riddles." Carl gave a half smile. "We're in this together, Ziggy. Let's hear it." The tree's roots shifted again, and the riddle was spoken aloud. "I am taken by the mouth but never eaten. I am given freely but never seen. What am I?" Ziggy barque de agerli. "I know. It's words. Words are spoken, but you don't eat them, and they're invisible until they're spoken." The tree's roots glowed brighter. "Correct, little one. Your wisdom has unlocked the truth within. The forest thanks you." Suddenly, the glowing roots withdrew, and the tree's trunk parted, revealing a hidden path. This path leads to the heart of the forest, where the greatest of mysteries are kept. Go forth, and may your journey be one of enlightenment. Ziggy and Carl exchanged a look, their hearts full of excitement and wonder. "Let's go, Carl," Ziggy said, bouncing forward. Carl smiled, a little slower than Ziggy, but no less eager. "After you, Ziggy. We make a great team." And together, they ventured into the path, ready for whatever new adventure lay ahead. Ziggy and Carl were wandering through the forest when they came across a narrow bridge made of twisted vines and moss. The air felt cool, and the forest was quiet, as if holding its breath. Ziggy's ears perked up as he stopped to inspect the bridge. "Do you think we should cross, Carl?" Ziggy asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. Carl eyed the bridge cautiously. "I don't know, Ziggy. It looks old and fragile, but if we don't cross, we might miss something important." Ziggy's tail wagged. "I bet we can do it. We've crossed worse things before." Carl hesitated but then nodded. "All right, we'll go together. But stay close, Ziggy. We don't know what's on the other side." With that, they took their first step onto the bridge. It creaked under their weight, but they carefully moved forward. Halfway across, the ground beneath them shook, and the vines began to twist and sway. Suddenly, a voice boomed from the other side of the bridge. "Who dares to cross my bridge?" Ziggy froze in place, his ears flat against his head. "Who said that?" Out of the shadows, a large, mysterious figure appeared. A giant spider with glowing eyes and sharp fangs. "I am the guardian of the bridge," the spider hissed. "No one may cross without proving their worth." Carl stood tall, his tail flicking nervously. "What must we do to prove ourselves?" The spider's glowing eyes narrowed. "You must answer my riddle. Get it wrong, and you will never leave this bridge." Ziggy gulped but stood firm. "What's the riddle?" The spider's voice was like a whisper in the wind. I have keys but open no locks. I have space but no room. You can enter, but you can never leave. What am I? Ziggy's tail wagged with excitement. I know. It's a keyboard. It has keys, but no locks, space for typing, but no actual room. And you can enter things but can't leave. The spider tilted its head, clearly impressed. You are correct. You may pass. With a final hiss, the giant spider stepped aside, allowing Ziggy and Carl to cross the bridge. They continued, their hearts racing with the thrill of solving the riddle. As they reached the other side, Carl let out a deep breath. That was close, Ziggy. You sure know your riddles. Ziggy grine. It wasn't just me. We did it together. The two friends shared a moment of laughter before continuing on their adventure, knowing that as long as they had each other, no challenge was too big. Ziggy, the energetic golden retriever puppy, and Carl, the wise and protective crocodile, had become inseparable companions since their first meeting in the heart of the forest. Together, they had faced many challenges, solved mysteries, and learned more about the magic that existed within their world. But today was different. Today, something had changed in the air. Something both felt deep in their bones as they wandered through the familiar woods. The forest around them was quiet, almost unnaturally so. The usual sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves were absent, replaced by an eerie stillness that made even Ziggy's normally bouncy steps slow down. He turned to Carl, who had stopped walking as well, his sharp eyes scanning the trees ahead. Do you feel that, Carl? Ziggy asked, his voice tinged with unease. It's so quiet. It's like the whole forest is holding its breath. Carl, who usually took everything in stride, nodded slowly. Yes, I feel it too. Something's not right. We need to stay alert, Ziggy. The forest has its secrets, and sometimes, those secrets are darker than we think. Ziggy wagged his tail nervously, but his curiosity got the better of him. Do you think it's another one of those riddles? Or maybe something even bigger is happening? Carl glanced at him, a gentle smile creeping across his face. If it's a riddle, we'll solve it, just like we always do. But if it's something else, we face it together, like we always do. Encouraged by Carl's words, Ziggy took a deep breath and wagged his tail. The two friends continued their walk, the silence growing more oppressive with each step. They soon reached a small hill, and as they crested it, the sight before them made Ziggy stop in his tracks. A strange fog hung low over the ground, swirling around the trunks of the trees like an ethereal mist. It was unlike any fog they had ever seen before. It seemed to pulse with energy, almost alive. Carl narrowed his eyes. That doesn't look natural. We should be careful, Ziggy. Ziggy, always the brave one, padded forward cautiously, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air. The fog smelled different, old and mysterious, like forgotten memories. What do you think it is? He asked, looking up at Carl. Carl tilted his head, thinking deeply. I'm not sure, but it feels like magic. Magic that isn't meant to be disturbed. We need to find out what's causing it. Without another word, they ventured into the fog. The moment they stepped into it, everything around them seemed to change. The trees, once familiar, now looked twisted and strange, their bark darkened, and their leaves unnaturally still. The ground beneath their feet felt soft, almost spongy, as if it were shifting with every step. Do you see that, Carl? Ziggy whispered, his voice barely audible in the thick fog. Carl squinted ahead, where the fog parted slightly to reveal a large stone archway. It was covered in moss, and strange symbols were carved into its surface. The archway seemed to pulse with a faint, otherworldly glow. Ziggy's heart raced. What is that? I've never seen anything like it before. Carl took a cautious step forward, his gaze fixed on the archway. It looks like an entrance to something hidden. I don't think we're supposed to be here, Ziggy, but if we turn back now, we might never know what's on the other side. Ziggy's tail wagged furiously, his curiosity outweighing his fear. Let's go through it, Carl. Maybe it's another adventure waiting for us. Carl sighed but nodded. All right, Ziggy. Together as always. The two friends stepped forward, crossing under the archway. The moment they did, the fog seemed to dissipate, replaced by a strange, shimmering light that filled the air. The ground beneath their paws was no longer soft and spongy, but firm, as if they had crossed into another realm entirely. Ahead of them stood a massive stone door, intricately carved with more of the same symbols that adorned the archway. The door was slightly ajar, as if it had been waiting for them to arrive. Ziggy barked softly, his voice full of wonder. This place is amazing. Do you think we're the first ones to find it? Carl didn't answer immediately, his mind racing with thoughts of what could lie beyond the door. He stepped closer, inspecting the carvings on the stone. The symbols seemed to pulse with energy, and as his claws brushed against the door, a low hum resonated through the air. I don't think we're the first, Carl said, his voice filled with a mix of awe and caution. But I don't know if we're meant to be here, Ziggy. Whatever is inside, it's old. Very old. Ziggy's eyes shone with excitement. We can handle it, Carl. We've faced so much together. Whatever it is, we can do it. Carl smiled, his heart swelling with pride for his brave friend. You're right, Ziggy. We can do anything together. With that, Carl pushed the door open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. The walls were lined with towering shelves, each filled with ancient books, scrolls, and strange artifacts. In the center of the room stood a massive stone pedestal, upon which rested a glowing crystal, pulsing with an eerie light. Ziggy's tail wagged excitedly. This place is incredible. Look at all the books. And that crystal. It's so beautiful. Carl stepped forward cautiously, his eyes fixed on the crystal. It's not just beautiful, Ziggy. That crystal, it feels powerful. I don't know if we should touch it. Ziggy tilted his head, confused. But it looks so cool. What if it's a gift, or something meant for us to discover? Carl hesitated. Maybe, but some things are better left untouched, especially when they're this powerful. I can feel it, Ziggy. This crystal has magic, dangerous magic. Ziggy looked at the crystal, then back at Carl. But what if it can help us? What if it can help the forest? Carl took a deep breath. We need to be careful. Magic like this can change everything, sometimes in ways we don't expect. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the glow from the crystal casting strange shadows on the walls. Finally, Ziggy spoke, his voice filled with determination. I think we should find out. But we'll be careful, Carl. We'll do it together, just like always. Carl looked down at his brave friend, his heart swelling with pride. All right, Ziggy, we'll do it together. With one last cautious glance at the glowing crystal, Carl reached out and touched it with one claw. The moment his claw made contact, the chamber shook, and the crystal's light flared blindingly bright. Ziggy yelped, but Carl stood firm, his body tense. The light enveloped them both, and for a moment, they felt as though they were floating in space, weightless and suspended in time. Suddenly, the light faded, and they found themselves standing back at the entrance of the chamber. The door closed behind them. The air was still, but the strange fog had vanished, and the forest around them seemed different, brighter somehow. Ziggy's tail wagged as he looked around in awe. We did it, Carl. What happened? Where are we? Carl looked at him, a knowing smile spreading across his face. I think we've unlocked something, Ziggy. Something that will help the forest, but we'll have to discover what it is together. Ziggy jumped up and barked happily. Let's go, Carl. We've got a new adventure ahead. And so, once again, Ziggy and Carl set off on their next great adventure, ready to face whatever mysteries the magical forest would throw their way, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could conquer anything. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the forest, Ziggy and Carl made their way through the now energized woods, each step carrying them deeper into the unknown. The magic from the crystal still lingered in the air, its effects subtle but undeniable. The forest felt alive, as though it had been awakened from a long slumber. The leaves of the trees shimmered in the fading light, and the ground beneath their paws hummed with a gentle vibration that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the earth itself. Ziggy bounded ahead, his ears perked up, his eyes wide with excitement. "Carl, look. The forest is different now. It's like it's glowing." Carl, who had always been more cautious, took a slower pace, his keen eyes scanning their surroundings. "I see it too, Ziggy. Something's changed, but I can't tell what exactly. It feels like the forest is reacting to what we did." Ziggy, never one to be easily deterred, darted off the path and ran toward a cluster of glowing mushrooms that had sprung up on the forest floor. "This is amazing. It's like everything is alive now. I bet we could find all sorts of new things here." Carl trotted behind him, shaking his head with a chuckle. "You sure do have a lot of energy, Ziggy. But remember, we don't know what this magic has done. We should be careful." Ziggy paused for a moment, looking back at Carl, his tail wagging. "But Carl, this is exactly what we've been looking for, right? New adventures, new discoveries. Who knows what we'll find?" Carl sighed but couldn't help but smile. "You're right. Every adventure is a chance to learn. Just promise me you'll stay close. I promise." Ziggy barked happily before darting off again, sniffing around the glowing mushrooms with his usual curiosity. Carl, though still wary, watched his friend with a soft expression. He had always admired Ziggy's unyielding spirit, his ability to find joy and wonder in the smallest things. It was something Carl had come to rely on. Ziggy's endless optimism often lifted Carl's own mood, even in the darkest of times. They continued walking through the forest, the vibrant energy around them sparking a sense of awe in Carl's heart. But as they moved further, something strange started to happen. The ground beneath their paws began to shift, and the trees around them seemed to close in, their branches twisting and curling like arms reaching toward them. Ziggy stopped in his tracks, his nose twitching. "Carl, do you feel that?" Carl's senses heightened instantly. "Oi. Something's not right. The forest is changing again, and not in a way that feels welcoming." Just as Carl spoke, the air around them seemed to grow heavier, and the faint sound of whispers filled the space between them. Ziggy's fur stood on end, and he whimpered softly. "What's happening? I don't like this, Carl." Carl's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the surroundings, trying to locate the source of the disturbance. The once vibrant glow from the mushrooms faded into a pale, sickly light, and the trees that had been so alive now seemed to pulse with an unsettling rhythm. "I think the magic we awoke has triggered something deeper within the forest," Carl said, his voice low. "Something that has been sleeping for a long time, and I'm afraid it doesn't want us here." Ziggy's tail drooped, and his ears flattened against his head. "What do we do, Carl? We can't just leave, can we? We have to figure this out." Carl, ever the protector, stepped forward, his large frame blocking Ziggy from view. "We'll stick together, Ziggy. We'll face whatever this is. But we need to be cautious. If this forest is reacting like this, it's likely because we've disturbed something that was meant to stay hidden." Just then, a loud crack echoed through the trees, and a massive, twisted vine shot up from the ground before them, wrapping itself around a nearby tree. The vine pulsed with dark energy, its surface shimmering with an eerie, shadowy glow. Ziggy yelped and backed away, his paws skidding against the soft ground. "Carl, what is that thing?" Carl growled low in his throat, his instincts on high alert. "It's a manifestation of the forest's magic. We've awakened something ancient, and now it's fighting back." Before Ziggy could respond, more vines began to emerge from the ground, twisting and stretching toward them like serpents. Carl lunged forward, using his powerful jaws to snap at one of the vines. "Stay back, Ziggy," Carl shouted. "I'll handle this." Ziggy, not one to sit by idly, barked in defiance. "No, Carl. We need to stick together. I can help too." Without another word, Ziggy charged at one of the vines, leaping into the air with surprising agility. He grabbed the vine with his mouth and tugged at it, but it was no use. The vine was too strong, too thick, and it pulled him closer to the ground. Carl saw what was happening and immediately rushed to Ziggy's aid. With a mighty push, he yanked the vine away from Ziggy, tossing it aside with ease. "I told you to stay back. This is too dangerous," Ziggy panted, shaking off the dust. "I can handle myself, Carl. We're in this together, remember?" Carl looked down at his friend, his eyes filled with concern but also pride. "You're brave, Ziggy, but sometimes bravery means knowing when to be careful." Ziggy nodded, his tail wagging again. Carl. "But we've never backed down from anything before. And we're not starting now." With renewed determination, Carl and Ziggy faced the growing mass of vines. Together, they began to fight back, Carl using his strength to tear the vines apart while Ziggy darted in and out, biting and clawing at the magical tendrils. The forest around them seemed to grow darker as they fought, the very air thick with tension. As the battle raged on, Carl noticed something strange. The vines that they had destroyed seemed to dissolve into the air, leaving behind faint trails of glowing energy. It was as if the forest was trying to communicate with them, to tell them something. Carl the crocodile couldn't help but chuckle. "You're always ready for the next thing, aren't you?" Ziggy the golden retriever puppy's eyes shone with excitement. "I have to be. There's so much to explore. We've already saved the forest once. Who knows what else is out there?" With a deep breath, Carl the crocodile lumbered over to join Ziggy the golden retriever puppy. The two friends began their trek through the forest, the morning sunlight filtering through the leaves above them in beams of golden light. Everything seemed different now, more alive than ever. They had restored the balance, but Carl the crocodile had a nagging feeling that this wasn't the end of their journey. It was only the beginning. As they walked, they came across a part of the forest neither of them had explored before. The trees here were taller, their trunks thick with age. The ground was covered in soft moss, and strange flowers bloomed in shades of blue and purple. "Wow," Ziggy the golden retriever puppy breathed. "This place is amazing. Do you think it's part of the forest that we didn't know about?" Carl the crocodile nodded slowly, his eyes scanning the area with his usual caution. "It looks like it. But be careful, Ziggy the golden retriever puppy. We don't know what we'll find here. The forest is still full of surprises." Ziggy the golden retriever puppy didn't need much encouragement to move ahead, his nose twitching with curiosity. "I'm going to find out," he declared, bounding off in the direction of a small stream that ran through the clearing. Carl the crocodile followed behind, but his steps were more measured. He had learned to be wary, especially after the previous day's encounter with the vines. The forest had a way of surprising them, and not all surprises were pleasant. As they neared the stream, Ziggy the golden retriever puppy stopped in his tracks. His ears perked up, and his tail froze mid-wag. Carl the crocodile caught up to him, and saw that Ziggy the golden retriever puppy's eyes were wide with curiosity and caution. There, just ahead of them, was a creature unlike anything they had seen before. It was a small, shimmering fox, its fur glistening like silver in the sunlight. Its eyes were the color of the sky just before dawn, deep blue and full of mystery. The fox seemed to be made of light, its body shimmering as it moved through the grass. It wasn't like any regular animal, and it radiated an otherworldly energy, much like the forest had the day before. Ziggy the golden retriever puppy took a cautious step forward, his head tilting to one side. "Carl the crocodile, do you see that? What is it?" Carl the crocodile's heart skipped a beat as he observed the creature. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen," he said softly. "But it doesn't feel dangerous, it feels peaceful." The fox looked directly at them, its eyes locking with Ziggy the golden retriever puppy's. There was something ancient about the way it gazed at them, as though it had been waiting for this moment for a long time. It took a step closer, and to Carl the crocodile's surprise, it didn't seem afraid. Instead, it circled around Ziggy the golden retriever puppy, who was now completely entranced by the creature's presence. Ziggy the golden retriever puppy took a deep breath. "It's beautiful. It's like it's from a dream." Carl the crocodile stepped forward cautiously, "Don't get too close, Ziggy the golden retriever puppy. We don't know what it wants." The fox paused for a moment and then, with a sudden leap, bounded toward Carl the crocodile and Ziggy the golden retriever puppy. For a split second, Carl the crocodile tensed, ready to protect his friend, but the fox didn't attack. Instead, it gently nudged Ziggy the golden retriever puppy's paw with its head, then looked up at Carl the crocodile as if to say something, though it did not speak a word. Ziggy the golden retriever puppy's eyes widened in wonder. "Carl the crocodile, I think it wants us to follow it. Do you think we should?" Carl the crocodile stood still for a moment, weighing the decision. His protective instincts kicked in, but something about the fox felt right. There was no malice in its actions, only curiosity. He looked down at Ziggy the golden retriever puppy, who was practically vibrating with excitement. "Let's see where it leads us," Carl the crocodile finally said. "But we stay together, and we stay alert." Ziggy the golden retriever puppy nodded eagerly, and the two of them began to follow the fox as it led them deeper into the forest. The creature moved with such grace that it was almost as if it floated above the ground, its body shimmering with every step. As they ventured deeper, the trees began to change again. The trunks grew thicker, and the air grew colder, the breeze carrying a strange, sweet scent that seemed to come from nowhere. The fox led them through a series of twisting paths, each one more mysterious than the last. Eventually, they arrived at a clearing unlike any they had seen before. In the center of the clearing was a massive stone circle, its surface covered in intricate carvings. The fox stopped before the circle and looked at Carl the crocodile and Ziggy the golden retriever puppy, as though inviting them to step inside. Ziggy the golden retriever puppy's eyes sparkled. "What do you think this is, Carl the crocodile? Some kind of ancient temple?" Carl the crocodile stepped closer, his gaze lingering on the carvings. There was something familiar about them, though he couldn't quite place it. They seemed to tell a story, one of magic and power, of a time long forgotten. He could feel a connection to the stone circle, like it had been waiting for them. "I think we've found something important," Carl the crocodile said, his voice low. "Something that's been hidden away for a very long time." The fox looked at them once more before stepping back, its tail flicking in a way that seemed almost approving. It then disappeared into the shadows of the forest, leaving Carl the crocodile and Ziggy the golden retriever puppy alone in the clearing. Ziggy the golden retriever puppy looked up at Carl the crocodile, his excitement palpable. "What do we do now?" Carl the crocodile stood tall, his gaze fixed on the stone circle. "Now, Ziggy the golden retriever puppy, we figure out what this place means, and we uncover the secrets it holds." The adventure continues as Ziggy the golden retriever puppy and Carl the crocodile delve deeper into the mysteries of the forest. The stone circle is just the beginning of a much larger story, and there's still much to discover. Sweet dreams, little ones. May your sleep be peaceful and full of magical dreams. Good night.